Hello everyone, Charmancy here. Today I'm showing you the Thresholds plugin for Cacti. This is on request on my YouTube channel by a user who wanted to know how to use the Thresholds plugin. So Cacti has a plugin that allows us to set upper and lower controls on the data that we're collecting. In short, I'll show you kind of a quick demo on how this works. So the plugin can set these thresholds, and based on those thresholds, we can send an alert that can look like an email, a log entry, can even run a script locally. We can set notification lists to whatever trigger happens. We can send it to a certain group, things like that. Now, I've set up just a really simple kind of lab here, and I'm just pinging two sites. And what we're going to do is set a threshold. We're going to install the plugin and set a threshold based on latency, for instance, in this case, and an alert on it. So to do this, we will download the GitHub. We will download the GitHub plugin files. So on the GitHub site, Cacti, and then plugin. So the actual plugin is written by the Cacti group, and so I'm downloading T-Hold version 1.3.2. And I will just wget that and now unzip the files, and there'll be a folder plugin T-Hold. I will rename that, and next, since we're here, I will assign the appropriate permissions so that T-Hold is owned by www data, and let's just copy that over to var www html cacti plugins, or the plugins directory of your Cacti installation. Now that we've done that, you go over to the web page, go over to configuration, plugins, and you'll see T-Hold is available to be installed. Okay. The reason why mine shows uninstalled right now is I already had this installed before this demo, but yours will see this. You have a cog with a green dot on it, so click on that, and then click on the green check mark to enable the plugin. A new tab will show up called T-Hold. Now, from this screen, it doesn't look like much. You don't get any data yet. So let's go ahead and create a threshold. There are two different ways you can create a threshold. A templated threshold that applies to a template, so that each device that you import into the system that is attached to a template will automatically get that threshold. That's great if it's something, for instance, you have a router switch and you want to set a threshold based on errors on a port, or you want to set a threshold on packet loss. Things like that, where it doesn't matter where that device is, that threshold will be fine. If we're setting a threshold based on latency, then templated, it gets kind of complicated because, as I said in many of my videos about Cacti, depending on where the polar is, the latency can be higher or lower. It gets kind of messy. So what we'll do is create a threshold based on a single site. Okay. Now, in order to do that, go to Management, Thresholds, top right, click the plus for add, and we're going to create a non-templated threshold. I'll select 4.2.2.2, we'll select the ping latency graph and the ping data source and click create. Now we have the options on how we want this threshold to be set. So first things first, we'll enable this so that when we hit save, this will be enabled. Now, the bulk of what we need to do is going to be down here. So we'll have a high threshold, low threshold, and that's under warning. Okay, and then alert. So it's up to you pretty much what happens here. So a warning or an alert will just show up differently in the thresholds tab. Also, you can set different notification lists based on an alert or a warning. So let's say we want to set a threshold. Say that in this case, I want to generate an alert to show you. So we'll set a threshold, a high threshold of 1, indicating 1 millisecond is too high of latency here. Okay, so 1 millisecond is too high, and we know that because the graph is in milliseconds, right? Now, you can select the data type here. So an exact value, percentages. So I'll set just an exact value. Okay. And we'll go ahead and save this. Now, I haven't set any email alerts or anything like that for the demo, but this is where you do it. And if you can either do it free form in here, or in a minute I'll show you the notification list section where we can create a notification list. A couple of other things. You can also do time-based or a baseline deviation. So you can really get into it even from a statistical point of view, and actually go and select that and really mess around. I highly encourage you on the GitHub site, which I'll include in the description below, to check out the documentation. So this video is meant to just give you kind of a brief overview. There is a lot to this plugin. I use it a lot, and I can definitely tell you it comes very in handy. You can do all sorts of triggers and stuff like that with it. Now, the re-alert cycle. So this is where you have to figure out how you want how you want the alerts to happen. So for instance, this will generate an alert saying, hey, the latency is high. Now, do you want a single email and then have the knock or the on-call staff or the techs get that email and work it? Or do you want an alert every hour, for instance? So every 5 minutes, right? So this is the lowest it goes, the breach duration. So the amount of time the data source has to be, in this bad state. Okay. So if you set this re-alert to every hour or every 10 minutes, every 10 minutes that threshold is breached, the notification list will get an email. So it's up to you really to figure out how you want this, how you want that to proceed. Now, if your team has access to Cacti, then, which is the next thing I'll show you here, when we go to T-Hold, we see that this is already an alarm. Why is it an alarm, right? We know that the current milliseconds, the round trip time is 20 milliseconds, and the baseline, the trigger is 1 millisecond. Anything above that is high. So it's already an alarm. Now, if your team has access to this, they'll automatically see that, hey, what's going on here? There's something wrong. And they can get right to the graph by clicking View Graph, and it'll take you to the graph. Similarly, they can even turn off the threshold. And you do that, say, if there's a network outage, or hey, there's maintenance, and the threshold wasn't turned off earlier. Say that there's maintenance. I don't know. This IP is now taking a different route than it normally does because we're doing work on the core router, and it's on a longer path, and the latency's up past the baseline. So you can easily just turn it off, which will turn off the red alert. You can even see the threshold history itself to see, when this went into alarm last, and when it cleared, all that stuff to help you troubleshoot. Okay, so there are a couple of other settings that we can talk about here. So under configuration settings, under alert/thold, there are some other options. So one of them, auto create thresholds. Okay, so when you auto create thresholds, when you select this, that's when you can go to the templates and automatically do that. I don't really use this. I rather tinker with a templated threshold, and normally, you'd have for ping packet loss, and that's really it that you can ideally put a high number, low number on. Anything above 1% packet loss is bad. Now with latency and stuff, I don't really know about a threshold in practice that you'd put a number on for a high latency, unless you have a point-to-point link or something like that you guarantee on your SLA that we provide XYZ latency. So it had to be a corner case, not in a general LAN, but maybe in an ISP environment or something like that. Okay, so you can enable even command execution. Now I've played around with this, and it is really, really nice to have. I'll show you. If you enable that, now that's one feature that I use. And under logging, you can actually have these thresholds logged into the Cacti log if you choose. You can even have it go to a syslog if you want. Now the thresholds daemon. The thresholds daemon is used for, I would say, large installations. And when I'm talking large installations, I'm talking about maybe 400, 500 devices where you really need the threshold daemon. And it's exactly what it's a daemon that runs in the background, collecting all these thresholds and really checking into what's going on. And the difference is that it's a dedicated thread on the system used to offload how much work the entire Cacti instance has to do. So you can enable that here, and that's pretty much it in terms of the big features, right? I mean, there's other ones for, again, corner cases or fine tuning, but here is the latest. The last part of the settings here. So if you're integrating, say, with ServiceNow or a ticketing system that will parse email notifications to a ticket, this is where you'll spend some time. And the reason why is that you can actually set variables as to how the email shows up. So if I hover over this, it'll actually tell you the emails. The email, I guess you would say the email variables that that you could put in for, let's say, the body and the subject, right? So let's say you want to get rid of the gibberish and you just want the description of the device, including the host name and if it's down or up. And based on that, send an email. The email gets received by ServiceNow or your ticketing system, and then that system parses the email to create a ticket. You can format that email properly with this function. Also, you could put in, free form text like call support at 1-800-444-4444, something like that, and that'll be included in the email as free text. And then you just save that. So if we go back to thresholds, let's go back to even the thresholds that we created. You will see now that there is a command for high trigger, low trigger, and normal. So, and I've played around with this. This is actually on my GitHub page, and let me see if I can find the repo that I put that code in. Yes. So I've actually set up just a small little script that I can send Twilio SMSs right from Cacti. And how that works is that I just have a script that put on the Cacti server, and then just have this command. Then okay, so it's a high trigger, and run the script. And the script does the work, really. I put a static kind of Twilio number, a static landline number. That could be, let's say, the on-call pager or however else you have it set. And then you can get that SMS message. And there's other things you can do, of course. Let's say you have an expect script, and you want the expect script to, say, log in to a router that's in alarm and do some funky show commands, and then save it to a file, and then check that file for whichever values you're looking for. Say, show memory or show CPU, process, stuff like that, and help with the troubleshooting process. And I find this very useful, and I've done a lot of funky things with this ability to help out with things like that. Everything from automation for server commands to Twilio integration. Now, I have reached out to Cacti, and I'm thinking about writing my own plugin here for Twilio integration natively, instead of using a script that you can put the Twilio information and then have that SMS go out without that script again, and then of course have other options that Cacti will then send whatever output it got from that command in the email, so that you get high CPU usage alarm, for instance, and it runs, say, the top command or PSEF, and then sends that to the tech, and before they even log into a system, you can see what process is eating up all your CPU and stuff like that. Okay, so one thing I want to touch on before I go, and that is a notification list. So I said that thresholds can be triggered, and then the message set to a notification list. In order to do that, click on Notification List, top right hand corner, click on the plus. And this is where you can put a name for it, IT support. IT support. Description, this is for the IT department. And then the email addresses. Okay. And so the email addresses are comma separated. So you can do like 1@1.com, 2@2.com, 3@3.com. And these will be in a list. You click create. And so now when I go to thresholds, under notification list, I see IT support is selectable, and that IT support distribution list will, or sorry, notification list will get an email once this is done. You can also associate specific devices to the notification list, and you can do all sorts of things, and really break out. So, say for instance, you have the network team, the server team, the desktop team. So the desktop team might be interested if an access switch goes down. So a switch that the desktops are connected to. The network team might be interested in the core. And then the server team, of course, is interested in the servers. So you can split that up into either different notification lists or assign devices to a particular notification list. You can really break it out. So go and read the Thresholds documentation to really get a grasp of what this plugin is capable of, because we can be here all day talking about corner cases and things like that. So I hope this video was very helpful for you, and I hope it taught you how the Thresholds plugin is useful.